Okay, so today we're discussing the findings of the recent report, and the title is DevSecOps, Simplifying Complexity in a Changing World. I guess the first most obvious finding seems to be that DevSecOps requires collaboration between, as the clues in the title, I guess, the development team and the security teams.
Hey, thanks for having me. I think you're right. That's one of the, I think, foundational stone. It was in DevOps, and it continues to be in DevSecOps. I think DevOps was the first time when people, especially the developers and IT operators, started seeing value of collaborating together and not just staying in silos, where the responsibility was so clearly delineated. It also created barriers. When the responsibilities started coming together, where developers were not just responsible for creating applications, writing code, but also testing and deploying it onto the production environment and ensuring that it stays live, and it is, if things go down, they take the responsibility of bringing back up and owning the SLAs. Right? And that's where the responsibility is blurred. It's not that there are no experts, but I think the developer team, a Scrum team in today's world, is responsible for development as well as deployment, the operation aspects of it. Right? And the DevSecOps is building on top of the same success. And as you rightly pointed out, collaboration is in the center of it, without which it won't be successful.
Yeah, but I think the survey hinted that although that's how it works, collaboration, that companies are maybe struggling to get that collaboration still, whether that's a cultural thing or whatever, but also the fact that some are also struggling to understand how security fits within the DevOps sort of cycle, I guess. So any thoughts as to why that might be?
Yeah, you're right. I think sometimes just because it is obvious, it's not really easy to adopt. Right. And in fact, just to look at some of the numbers, I think more than 75% of our respondents, out of 600 odd respondents, said that yes, security is important, and DevOps, DevSecOps adoption is really strategic for them. But still, only more than 55% are in level 2 or level 4 maturity. More than 40%, somewhere between 40 to 50% are in level 1 and level 2 maturity. Level 1 is just their prototyping. Level 2 is they have implemented it in one team, but still not matured enough to spread it across the organization, which is level 3. And level 4 is where they are, in fact, it's deployed across the organization and they are optimizing it. So just about 40%, around 40% are still in level 1 or level 2. And what they cite is the biggest problem they have is getting cultural aspects, which is hindering them in establishing those collaborative ways of working across the team to get to this maturity level, where they can harness the benefit. In addition to that, there is also another really strong trend that is preventing this, where there is always a trade-off that you need to do between, should I build a new feature and take it to market, or should I stabilize, or should I tighten my security, or go for compliance faster, right? Or should I invest my dollar or one engineer or two engineers that I have on new feature or on security? I think this trade-off is also another aspect which we are seeing very clearly in the survey, hindering the adoption of DevSecOps.
Okay, and also I'm just wondering as well, because I mean, traditionally when anyone mentions IT security, we think of firewalls and sort of perimeter defenses in the main and ransomware and stuff like that. Do people, is sort of the security required within the DevOps cycle, is that a completely different type of security, or is it related? I suppose what I'm saying is, does it need a different type of skill set from what we'd call traditional IT security, which is all about, in the main, blocking people from getting into an organization from outside?
All those things are required. Whatever you said, firewall, or any proxies, all those things are obviously required. But let me give a very contrast or extreme example, which might not be the example that a lot of organizations have to deal with, but this probably will kind of tell what is the difference, how it was maybe 15 years ago versus now, right? If you think about any organizations, it doesn't matter if it is startup or if it is a large enterprise, who have cloud first strategy. Their application is developed using cloud native technology, is built on public, one or many public clouds. If this is where they are operating, then there is complete difference in how the whole supply chain works. There is absolute democratization of procurement and architectural decision making. Initially, this used to be CIO or IT teams which were deciding what softwares to procure, what virtual machines to procure, what hardware to procure. Now it is a fresh out of college developer in many cases. Right? He or she may has access to AWS console, Azure console, GCP console. They go click, and after 1 month the bill comes in. And this is one aspect, right? And second is they look at web, thanks to Netflix, Uber, Twitter, all these technology companies. They have given their architecture publicly, and that inspires all these talented developers, and they want to use the latest technology to ensure their applications scale the level of the top companies do. So they choose software technologies like Amazon S3 or Lambda or serverless, these kind of components, which has been proven to be successful, but only in case of functionality and time to market, right? And these things happen in isolation from security officers. And they have no freaking clue of this is being used until they get invited to penetration test, or sometimes even it skips. Right? There is a launch and security team sits in isolation and they're testing, hey, what the hell, your S3 bucket is open for public. Your code that you have put in Lambda is available in GitHub in public access, right? Or your keys for your AWS account is available in code repository, and people who are on contract has access to it. If they quit, the keys is with them and they have key to kick them. Right? So this might sound paranoid, but this is almost this is reality. Right, in many organizations where democratization has definitely increased the fast accelerated time to market, but it has made security as a clear afterthought.
Okay, so I'm guessing, I think the survey also highlighted that there's a need for better management of DevSecOps. So the example you've just given, I guess that's part of that somebody, presumably senior or even at board level, needs to say, as you say, whether we're going to go to market quicker and sort out the security risk afterwards, or if we're going to spend more time building a secure application and then launch it a bit later. So all of that needs to be understood by our manager and then some kind of policy strategy implemented. Yes,
that's correct, absolutely right. And I mentioned that there are level 3, level 4 organizations which claim that they are in level 3 or level 4 of adoption. When we look at some of the responses that they have given, there are some contrast where they feel that their focus on business agility is one of the driver, right? They focus more on business agility, and also they feel that they using DevOps, DevSecOps mechanism has helped them manage better their teams better who are remote. And also, they have used these methodologies to, in fact, start their effort from ground up, especially when it comes to cloud native. So management needs to be involved. They need to decide, and that wherever we have seen this kind of alignment are higher or clear from management perspective, they also seem to have a higher level of maturity or adoption of DevOps.
Okay, and at the other end of the scale, I think you uncovered that there are a surprising, I think it obviously is a minority, but surprising minority of companies that would describe themselves at the exploratory stage of DevSecOps. So that means they're not even started, they're still working out how to implement, or I wouldn't say whether it's relevant to them, because I imagine anyone who's developing software, it's got to be relevant. So they're really just understanding how to go about implementing. Is that right?
That's right. About 17 or 19% said that they are in exploratory stages. So there is a small team or the individual or some individuals trying it out at a prototype or proof of concept level. Right? And they also have those respondents also have shown responded saying that they think that the value of adoption of DevSecOps is 12 to 14 months long. Whereas organizations which are at level 3, level 4, they feel that the value is seen between 0 to 6 months. Right? So there is a minority who are still exploring, and to your point, they have expressed that security is important for them. But they feel that it takes about 2 years, up to 2 years for them to see value, and consequently, I think they will adopt slowly. Right?
Yeah, and I think this also uncovered that no matter where people are, what level they're at, they all admitted that they could be doing more with DevSecOps, whether that's achieving more or improving how they go about implementing it. Is any thoughts as to sort of what from take a level 4 company, what more if they're pretty mature, but what else might they be doing? And I guess at the start you've explained obviously they're just understanding it.
Clearly, I think more than 75, 70%, 77 or somewhere in that number range, they have expressed this DevSecOps is strategically important for them and they see value, right? It's more than majority. And when we talk about level 4, they look at how can they optimize further. Let me give you an example. We work with a lot of, we being in the DevSecOps space, we help organizations automate their compliance, automate their security policies. So we have, in fact, help them codify their security or governance policies and bring all of these things shift left, right, early in the development cycle, so that they can they can have the security posture from day one. And we have seen many organizations which I would categorize in level 4. The way they operate is they standardize their policy, they codify their policy and make their policy available in source code repositories like GitHub. So what happens is, going back to the case of a new developer who looks at some blog and inspired, wants to use the technology that they have told. For them, they use it, but before taking it to production, they have to import this code and run a test in their traditional CI/CD pipeline, right? And in that pipeline, it will flag that this is not an approved service by your security team. So it doesn't still stop them from doing it. They can still apply for waiver and continue, right? This gives input to security team to evaluate a new technology that they have not approved, they probably are not aware of, while it is still in development. And then they can assess the risk, and they will then release a new version of this policy file, which could say this is approved or this is not waiverable, right? I don't know if that is the right term even, but you can't waiver, let's say, right? So this is how level 4 organizations work. They optimize. The security team becomes enabler, and they accept this is a change. They have accepted that this is a change, and they enable development teams to move faster rather than saying no, you can't go live today, right? Until unless it is fixed.
Okay, and I think as with so many sort of technologies that are newish, skills and training is quite important. But I'm wondering, are we talking about people learning new technical skills, or do the DevOps and the security already have the skills? So it's more, the technical skills they've got. So is it more about the sort of managing and the process skills to to put their technologies together, as you say, in a sort of, I guess, parallel fashion, rather than over the wall type development? They're, as you say, they're security and DevOps are developing something, security are kind of testing it for security potentially at the same time, and therefore, so skills and training, what's missing, what's required, I guess. So
when we look at skills and trainings, I think I would categorize it in some buckets. But before that, I think there is silos which we need to recognize. Developers know some things which security professionals don't know, and similarly, compliance officers know something which they can't express in a way that a developer can understand. And there are ops people who care about, who are constantly incentivized to keep things up, and they don't really understand the nuances of why these policies need to be in place, right? I think the silos, recognizing that there are silos, is the first step, and making sure that we, as an organization, we create avenues where these people collaborate better. For example, we have seen some organizations where there is I talked about the policy file, but similarly, there is a system architecture review, which is a periodic review of any new application that is about to go live, is being reviewed with bunch of stakeholders, which is security, IT ops, compliance officers, all of them, right? And similarly, even in organizations like Progress, our CISO conducts a monthly webinar where he shares some of the new exploitations that have happened, and some of the new policies that he is planning to implement within the organization, and why so, and some of the new services, new tools that are available for them to for developers to explore and utilize. So I think understanding, acknowledging that there is silos, and creating avenues for these teams to get together is very, very fundamental. And whichever organization does this are able to solve the skill gap very easily, because once you identify what the gap is, it is easy to train. But the biggest challenge that we see is identifying the gap that needs to be bridged. There are a host of training materials. Will you just make them consume these training materials, or will you cross-pollinate teams? For example, bring in a IT operator into developer team, or a security professional into the Scrum team for a couple of sprints, right? What is the way in which you can bridge the skill gap is very clearly understood only when you know what that gap is, and that comes by breaking silos.
Okay, and in terms, I mean, you've alluded to some of the benefits, but it'd be good if you could maybe give us if there isn't a definitive list, but outline all the different benefits that using DevSecOps brings. I mean, you mentioned, I think, obviously agility, time to market, but what other things do people benefit from when they implement DevSecOps?
So those are the two biggest advantages, right? I think time to market is what all of us as technologies, or as even business people, want to accomplish. But we don't want to do that at a cost of security exploitation, or getting not able to enter into a geography, or not able to sell because we don't meet certain compliance criteria. So that's where I think DevSecOps gives processes and tools to balance your time to market without having to compromise on security and compliance. And I think this is the biggest advantage from a buyer perspective, right? Whenever we talk to people who write the check to buy the tool, this is what they value the most. Now, stepping a little back from a developer's perspective, or any practitioner's perspective, for them, developers value flow, right? They want to do things in a constant flow. They want lesser interruptions. They want fewer people to tell them what to do, and they want their work to be stopped as less as possible, right? DevSecOps also enables people to continue what they're doing with least interruptions, and even those interruptions are guided, meaning if you get an error, you almost always have a suggestion on how to fix that error, because that is in your development cycle, right? It is not far enough that you have to halt everything and do only that. If you adopt DevSecOps, you shift left the risk, meaning during the development itself, the developer identifies that this is a problem, and they can either switch context and work on something else, or find the solution then and there itself. So I think developers' motivation level is also an additional benefit. So I would put these two as really, really big example: faster time to market without compromising on security and compliance, and keeping the team motivated and encouraged and also making sure that they are focused on security and compliance.
Okay, and the survey, I think I mean, obviously it was mainly focusing on DevSecOps, but it also sort of covered peripherally infrastructure modernization, I think policy things, policy as code, and also cloud native adoption. So, I mean, were there any sort of interesting things you found out, on any of those topics?
Yeah. I think cloud native was a very clear trend. I think a lot of organizations are, although we didn't ask them how, we didn't ask them, are you adopting that? So we don't really have a percentage of how many of in that, but clearly there were some questions around what are their primary areas of concern. Out of that, one of the top areas of concern is actually securing cloud native technologies. And this falls in two buckets. One is resources or services that cloud providers give, for example, EC2 or Azure Blobs, Cosmos DB, and things like that, which are provided and managed by cloud service providers. So that is one area of concern. And second, and probably the biggest, is Kubernetes. Right, Kubernetes is something that developers love because it's easy to launch. The containers and a lot of things, is taken care by the Kubernetes environment. But when it comes to managing the Kubernetes environment and securing it, it creates a host of challenges. So these two have very, very clearly come out as a challenges. A lot of organizations are struggling, or at least in top of their mind.
Okay, and before we finish, I mean, you carried out the survey, so in terms of that was obviously helping you understand what the landscape was like, but what is it that you're doing with the people you surveyed and other customers to, in this area? What is it you provide, and whether you can name customers or not, maybe an example of what, how you are helping a customer at some stage of their DevSecOps journey?
So I think the collaboration and culture aspect is something that we can, we believe we are poised to help them, primarily because we fit very well in as a code paradigm. Chef started its journey with infrastructure as code, and that was one of the fundamental building block or secret sauce for DevOps success. Right. Before that, people used to do some scripts, which was not repeatable, which was not testable, or they used to do monkey patching. All those things were needed heroes. Whereas infrastructure as code standardized things. It was almost like writing code which could be tested, which could be promoted from development to integration to production and rolled back. All these things were possible just because we were able to codify the infrastructure configuration. That's what we still hold in our as center of our development. And on top of it, we have built compliance as code, and now we enable our customers to define policy as code, which is infrastructure, compliance, as well as security policies. And with this advantage, we are able to help organizations come together and speak the same language, which is code. And once they are able to transition or translate their organization policy into code, and we help them in that as well, where we provide out-of-the-box content from CIS, FIG, PCI, GDPR, and many such standards. We give them codified content, which they can use as a building block or starting point to build their organization policies. Once this is in place, then we have a host of consultants who have been working with large organizations and helping them do the transformation wherever they need help in getting this started. We are also able to augment some of our experts either through professional service route or through consultative architecture route to make sure that they are successful in their journey. We have seen fantastic adoption in surprisingly regulated areas like banking. Right? We have a large segment of customers who are in banking and financial sectors, and that is where there is a lot of appetite to automate and to adopt DevSecOps, because they clearly see the disadvantage of having their name on newspaper headline.
Yeah, and then maybe just as we finish, then it'd be good to, we've covered a lot of ground, but how would you maybe summarize, the state of DevSecOps in terms of, relative maturity or immaturity, and how prevalent do you think it will become over time? I guess, just some thoughts as to say where we're now and where we maybe need to be.
Yeah, I think one interesting and surprising fact that when we got through this whole result was almost everyone thought it was really important, that DevSecOps was important, and they acknowledged that they need strategic focus, but there was contradictions there. Right? There were seeming contradictions around. One, they said that they can't get teams to collaborate. And another said, another contradicting factor is their investment to solve this was relatively less as compared to what they felt, how much they felt it was important, right? So this was very evident when we saw it for the first time. That is the contradiction on where they see that it is important, but there isn't any effort which is of the same size being put in to actually meet that gap. Having said that, I think a lot of people have recognized, right? The first step in solving the problem is recognizing that there is a problem. We are seeing that very evident, that people are recognizing collaboration and culture as two broad, themes which are helping them block. I think this is what I anticipate that will happen in the coming days, where people are going to invest in upskilling their teams and breaking down those silos, so that teams come together and make choices of tools like which will enable them build policy as code, or tools which will enable better collaboration. Right? Adoption of tools like Chef is going to increase, which will break down these silos, which will help break down these silos and also increase the collaboration.
Okay, so we covered a lot of ground, and I'm really grateful for your time, Prashanth. So thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Thanks, Philip. It was good talking to you.